Questions, please. हाँ अच्छा इसी
नाम ना होगा बदनाम तो होंगे तो क्या नाम ना होगा मैं delighted you answer my question at least sir. This question is about Surat Al-Kawthar. Is a well-known question really. Well, you have been asked so many times, that's why you say. Inna Shanyaka Huwal Abtar. In this one, the prophecy was 1400 years ago. And then we find in 1907, Hazrat Masih Maud was given a ilham, which was Inni Muhinun Man Arada I'anataka. Inni Muhinun Man Arada I'anataka. They have a lot of symmetry, sir. You see, could you kindly, I have a question in three parts. Number one, I want the background of the first verse of the Holy Quran, which I have mentioned, and background of the 1907 incident, and then I want the symmetry behind these two. That's part B. And part C is which is a question I'm afraid I should ask you. Does it apply same way to Hazrat Amr, the prophecy which was given in the Holy Quran?
The first part of the question deals with the last verse of Surah Kawthar. That is Inna Shanyaka Huwal Abtar. No, it's not the last. Yes, it is the last piece. And he wants to understand the background of this. Surah Kawthar, although very short, only 3 verses, is in fact a very deep and rich surah in meaning, and very wide in its application. As far as this particular verse is concerned, the background of this is that Hazrat Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam had not been gifted by a male issue. He had no son who could live long enough to become a man. So the Arabs, just to mock at him and to deride, used to call him Abtar, which means a person who is without a issue, without a male issue, because the line in fact ran from the male issues, not from the females. It was first time in the Arab history that the Sayyid's line started from female issue. Previously, in the Arab background, it was quite well established that those who had only girls, their line would not continue beyond the death of those girls. So that is the one who is called Abtar. Abtar means one who will die and whose daughters will also die if he has any daughters. And after that, no trace of that person will be ever left in the world, so he will be totally obliterated. That is the real sense behind the word Abtar. And they mocked at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, claiming that you say you are a prophet of all times, to live forever, and you are made, in a sense, the emperor of the whole world, in the spiritual sense. Yet what we observe is this, that beyond the first generation you are not going to live. You are not going to survive beyond the first generation of your daughters. After that you will be finished. So that was the pinch behind this. The Holy Quran said, Inna Shaniyaka Huwal Abtar. It is your enemy whose name will be obliterated from the history of Arab. In fact, at least in the sense that nobody would remember your enemies with kindness and with kind words. If remembered, they would be remembered with curses. So that is also worse than obliteration of a name. So inna shaniya ka ho daftar means that the reverse is going to happen. Now what happened was, in fact, that the leaders among those who used to laugh at Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam by saying he is an Akhtar was Abu Jahl. And his own son became a Muslim. And so much so that whenever somebody said Ikrama was son of Abu Jahl, he felt deeply offended. And he did not want to be attributed to such a man. Once he went to Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and complained that Ya Rasulullah, someone among the Muslims was pointing to me and saying he is son of Abu Jahl. So Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam felt the hurt he had felt and said no live man should be tortured for a dead man's sins. What a beautiful answer to his complaint. Dead man's sins were of course there. They could not be denied, they could not be obliterated. Yet, it's a beautifully balanced sentence. No live man should be tortured for a dead man's sins. And that is what happened to people, to Kuffar Makkah, to begin with, one after the other, and then full scale, en masse. The entire offsprings, the progeny of the Kuffar Makkah and Mushrikeen, became Muslims. And within a generation or two, you could not find a single man who could attribute with honor, who could permit you to be attributed with honor to his parents or grandparents or grandparents. And they felt it a shame. That is the meaning of Inna Shaniya ka huwa abtar. What they think of you, it is going to happen to them. So the culmination of this can be observed in the famous incident of Ikrama before his mortification. What happened was that once Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was holding court, I mean not in the material sense but a spiritual court. The room in which he was sitting was not big enough to occupy the entire people who wanted to see him. And he had also limited time. So what was happening was this, that some guardians were stationed outside and they would first take permission from Hazrat Umar, giving him the list. These are the people who want to see you. And then he would call the names. Okay, Mr. So-and-so should come in, Mr. So-and-so should come in. In one version, there are two different versions, but in one version, this is exactly what I am telling you, what happened. They named one after the other different people who belonged to the old slaves of the time of Abu Jahl. And the sons of the great leaders of Mecca were totally ignored. With the result that one after the other they went and the whole room was occupied. They said what they wanted to say and sat down very close to him. So the whole room was full of them and their turn did not come. So it is said that four of them got together and one said that you know what has happened to us today? They were very sensitive, these Arab leaders, extremely sensitive to their honor. So sensitive that for the smallest affront, they are known to have, they are known such wars to have taken place which lasted 100 years or more. So all, they were the sons of such violent people in temperament, and they were extremely sensitive to their honor. So one of them, in a very hurt tone, told the three companions, among them was Ikrimah one. So he said, you know what has happened today? So either Ikrimah or someone else said, yes, we know. But we also know that it was the fault of our fathers, no fault of Hazrat Umar, that we have been treated like this. We said, when there was a time when, for the sake of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, these were the slaves who were being dragged in the streets and they shed their blood for the sake of Islam. And it were the cursed fathers we had who were responsible for this treatment. So he's absolutely right. Ikrimah went into the room and said, begged Hazrat Umar of audience, and he was permitted. He said, I have come not to complain. We understand what has happened. We understand that it was the responsibility of our fathers. It was their fault for which we are suffering, and justly so. But all I want to tell you is this, that after all, we are the sons of great Arabs, great Quraysh, who were very sensitive to their honor. There must be some way out. Somehow or the other, we should be told that if you do this, then you will be able to wash the follies of your elders. If blood is required, we are ready to offer blood, but those follies must be washed once and for all. When Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala heard this, it is said that he felt so emotionally moved that he could not utter a word in answer. He knew if I would speak, I'll break down. So instead of saying anything, he raised his finger in the direction of the north, where a holy war was waging between the Muslims and the Kisra's empire, Caesar's empire. So he just raised his finger, and he understood the message, of course, that Umar wants to tell him that if you go and sacrifice your life for the sake of Islam in the northern front, then everything of the past will be washed out from you. You will live a new life, and that life will never come to an end. An eternal life will be gained in exchange for this mortal life. So he, along with his companions, some say there were 4, some say there were 8, some say there were 3 who went, but they all went and never returned. In one battle, they all got killed. This is how Inna Shaniyaka huwa al-abtar was fulfilled. Not only in this incident, but in detail, in every incident where an enemy of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who used to call him Abtar, himself bore witness that it were his forefathers who were Abtar and not Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So this is in short the background of this short verse, Inna Shaniyaka huwa al-abtar. The second question was that Hazrat Masih Maud had been revealed that Inni muhinun man arada ihanatak wa inni muhinun man arada ihanatak. That I will bring to shame, bring to dishonor, or I will dishonor those who want to dishonor you, and I'll help those who help you or who will help you. This verse, which I wanted to know, is revealed to Muslims. This is not a verse, this revelation is Hazrat Masih Maud Salam's ilham, and he thought there was some similarity between this and Nashana Kahwal Akhtar. The similarity is only to the extent that both are revelations of perpetual nature. They don't apply to one single moment or one particular enemy. Whenever things would repeat themselves, these prophecies would then repeat themselves. For example, those of the enemies of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who want eradication of Islam, they in fact are claiming that Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be left after. So the same treatment will be meted out to them. They and their religions and so-called philosophies would be obliterated, but not Islam. So, in fact, this Inna Shaniyat of Al-Akhtar is a verse of our permanent nature, not our temporary application. In the same manner, Inni Muhinun Man Arada Ehanatak and Inni Muhinun Man Arada Ehanatak, both these revelations, or both parts of this revelation, are of permanent nature. And we have seen them fulfilled one after the other. An enemy was destroyed by Allah, and another enemy rose much bigger, he thought he was. And he thought he was more powerful, and he would not commit the same mistakes which previous enemies of Ahmadiyyat committed. So this time Ahmadiyyat is going to be destroyed. And whatever he tried failed ultimately. Ahmadiyyat came out victorious, much larger, much bigger, much more powerful than previously, and it was the enemy who was ultimately destroyed. So we are passing through the same phenomena nowadays. And you will see this is a decree of Allah which no man on earth can change. Some people have begun to think that they would change it, but they are as big fools as previously there have been before them, because they don't know the ways of Allah. They don't know how encompassing the decree of Allah is. They don't know that the past has never been changed, the past history of Ahmadiyyat, by any man on earth, and it will not be permitted to be changed by any man on earth. The course will remain steadfast in the same direction, that is the direction of ever greater victory. Though greater suffering will also come our way, there is no doubt about it. Ahmadiyyat has been also described as a Ashab-e-Kahf, and such are exactly the days in Pakistan under which Ahmadiyya community of Pakistan is passing. They are almost like living the days of the caves. So difficulties would come, that nobody can deny. But what we deny is that difficulties will not be able to destroy Ahmadiyyat. They will infuse new blood into Ahmadiyyat. And after every trial, after every crisis, Ahmadiyyat would come out stronger and more honorable and more powerful and better established. This is the fate. So the enemies will keep on changing. A new name would come and another name would appear and another face would displace the previous face, whatever name you give him. But Ahmadiyyat would remain the same Ahmadiyyat and staying steadfast, ever moving forward, Jamaat of Allah, which nobody, no power on earth, whatever the name of that will be, can ever destroy. This is positive and 100% certain. So this is the similarity between the two. As far as this revelation is concerned, Inna Shaniya Kahol Akhtar, to Hazrat Masih, addressing Hazrat Masih Maud Salam, it also has a wide application, not in the same sense that Hazrat Masih Maud Salam was issueless to begin with, but in another sense it is the situation is similar. When Hazrat Masih Maud claimed to be the appointed reformer by Allah, the one which was being awaited for many, many centuries, at that time, the only two sons which he had, who belonged to him, refused to believe in him. They did not accept him. They did not get initiated. One was Mirza Fazl Ahmad and the other was Mirza Sultan Ahmad. And he was almost issueless, in that sense that he had no male issue belonging to him. So Allah promised him that although people are laughing at him and say that your own sons have denied you, what can you think of? Or how can you think of a great future? He claimed ultimately that Allah has promised me a progeny which will be all blessed by Allah, and one of them would rise to great heights. When he made this prophecy, exactly the opposite prophecy was made by Lekram. And then the fight began of who is going to be up there. Lekram said, and he published a book in response to the prophecy of Masih Maud that you say you will be born, your God will give you a great progeny who will live long and will become victorious, and the dark ages would be changed by their blessing, by the blessing Allah would show to them into light and this and that. But my Lord has told me that it was not God who was speaking to Mirza. It was the Satan himself who was addressing Mirza. He used these words in Hazrat Mirza Sahib. And as you know, all the words that Satan has spoken to you were false and they will never be fulfilled. So quite contrarily, my Lord, who is the real God of the world, has told me that in the first place, he will have no progeny, no issue at all. If he has an issue, it would be as insignificant as a rat and would not live long enough to reach maturity, would die in early childhood. He says, हद से हद 3 साल उम्दा रहेगा. Now, Hazrat Masih Maud had prophecy for him to die, and it took that prophecy 6 years to be fulfilled. Now, here lies the secret why it took so long. He lived long enough to see his prophecy frustrated. The son was born, and the 3 years passed, and another 3 years passed when he was ultimately destroyed, and he died an issueless person. Lekram did not leave a male issue at all. So that is what is meant by Inna Shaniya Kohal Akhtar in particular. But in generality, in its permanent applications, it's an unlimited phenomenon which will continue to be fulfilled in many ways. And all the questions been answered? I don't know. One is left perhaps.
Rest is the sir. Thank you very much.
After Fazl Sahib.
Sir, in the VCR at Karachi dated 9/2/84, a Maulvi put a question that when Mehdi would come, there would be all peace and concord in the world. But after the coming of Hazrat Masih Maud, he of course said, Mirza Sahab, the 2 world wars took place. You started explaining, but this Maulvi became too argumentative, and we were denied the fuller exposition, sir. I would request for that, sir.
But that has been answered everywhere, I suppose. And did you finish listening to this set or tape?
I finished that, sir. But after that you rose, sir. He went on.
I understand. That was after the prayer time had begun.
Yes.
And that Maulvi wanted to say, to ask a question, and I told him there is no time. Why have you been sitting all the time quietly?
No, sir, that was not. He went on arguing wrongly and
I know, but what I'm telling you, this is the background.
Yes.
So when he insisted, I permitted him to argue his case.
Yes.
And dealt with him shortly because it was already late and everybody wanted to say the prayer and finish with it.
Yes.
So that is the incident.
Yes.
So the question, would you now fill the place of the Maulvi for the time being?
No, sir.
And insist on asking this question?
No, sir.
No, go ahead and do it.
No, that's what we wanted, fuller exposition.
Again, the question.
That
Very unfortunate. That had to be done by somebody.
yes, sir. He had put the question that it was prophesied that when Mahdi would come, there would be peace and concord for the Muslims, whatever may be the method used. But after the coming of Hazrat Mirza Salam, this peace didn't dawn. We had two big wars, and the Muslims are still in this wretched condition. Yes. Yes.
The answer to this question has two different approaches. I'll answer this from two different angles. Number one, that when a prophecy is made and the time duration is not mentioned in so many words, sometimes people become very hasty and want things to happen in their own lifetime. While that prophecy sometimes applies to many, many generations, and ultimately it is fulfilled sometimes after 1,000 or 2,000 years. So the first thing to be remembered is this, that if you look at the prophecies of the Holy Quran, which were revealed with regards to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself, and he was positively promised a victory, it is prudent to start from there and observe the phenomena, because that phenomena would throw light. First of all, we must examine that prophecy, whether it has been fulfilled in toto or partially, and what happened to that prophecy. Now I mentioned particularly a prophecy of the Holy Quran relating to Huzur Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which says, وَالَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. It is He, the Lord of the universe, who sent this Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so that his religion is made victorious over the entire religions of the world. Now that prophecy took place 1400 years ago. And in every 100 years, 1 or 2 or 3 generations passed away. So that means about 40 odd generations have passed away since. And still that prophecy is to be fulfilled. If you look at the number of Muslims as compared to the number of non-Muslims, in totality the difference is far too big. But even country-wise, even in India, we are still a small minority. Against Hindus, we are a minority. Against Buddhists, we are a minority. Against Confuciuses, we are a minority, the followers of Confucius. And against atheists, the communists, we are a minority. Against Christianity, we are Christians, we are a minority. And 1400 years have passed since. So if a non-Muslim asks this question, what would be the answer? The only answer which a Muslim can find is this, that an ultimate fate has been described, and the ball is still in play. It has not become dead so far. So let's live long enough to see what happens. So that is the only answer. And in this case too, this answer applies. Peace will ultimately be established in the world, but something has to happen before that peace. And that has been described by Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself. For instance, in one of the traditions which I quoted yesterday or the day before, it was mentioned that when Messiah would come, there will be two great peoples on the earth who would be so powerful, such great nations who would be so powerful that it would not be for man to fight them, for any man to fight them. So Allah would reveal to the Messiah that proceed to the mountain and don't think of fighting with them materially. Only pray to your Lord and He would destroy them. Again, the same people are described in the Holy Quran as fighting with one another. Like the waves of ocean, one wave after another, they will try to conquer the other and will ultimately be destroyed with their own might. So that has to happen before the final peace. Because unless these great powers fight with each other and destroy each other, that peace cannot be established, which peace has been promised to us by Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And his words should be interpreted in the light of his own words, not as anybody pleases. In whichever direction he wants to drag them, he will not be permitted to do so. The words of Huzur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be interpreted in the words of in the light of his own words, which occur elsewhere. So one tradition throws light on the other. This is the second aspect of my answer. That to say that peace will be established, nobody can deny that. But how long after? That is to be debated. From the study of the Holy Quran, we can positively say that that time factor is not positively mentioned, so nobody can say how long after. But the seed of a worldwide peace will be sown, it means only that, in the first place. In the second place, it tells us, another tradition tells us, that at that time, the world would be ready to launch, to be launched into great world war. And two big people are the West and East. They are described as Yajuj, Majuj in the Holy Quran as well. And the forces of the Jaliyah, whatever name you give them. Before this coming of a peace, they have to fight it out between themselves and get totally exhausted. So I also mentioned Surah Tahir yesterday, in which also this prophecy is made. So peace would come, but after paying the price. Another aspect of this question is this, that if a good is promised to a people, that promise is always conditional to their own attitude towards that promise. The Holy Quran says, addressing the whole world, that Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam has come to give you new life. Yad'ukum lima yuhyikum. He is calling you towards him to give you a new life. But how many are there who got that new life? Not despite the fact that he was for the entire world. That new life was subject to the people's positive response. It was not to be offered to those who did not respond to his call. So in another sense, peace is established and given by Hazrat Masih Maud al-Salam, while the rest of the world, to Ahmadis, while the rest of the world are living a life of hell. only Ahmadis know that when they look at the rest of the world and their social pattern and their problems and their worries and their direction in life, their bearing or loss of bearing, they feel themselves to be in a sort of Jannah. And I know thousands of Ahmadis write to me about this, that thank God we were born Ahmadis or we accepted Ahmadiyya, because the rest of the world is suffering hell, however happy they may appear to be. But that peace, to be born for a purpose, to serve that purpose, to offer sacrifices for that purpose, to live a meaningful life, that is a peace which can never be obtained elsewhere. And that peace has been given to us by Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam, and naturally it should have remained confined. It should have remained confined to those who accepted him. Like all the benefits of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam flowed in the direction of those who accepted him. And those who denied, they were deprived and they did not go to Jannah. They, in fact, a bigger hell was their destiny than those who previously denied the prophets. So if the reward is bigger, the punishment is also bigger. So if a peace is denied to man by man himself, while Allah offered that peace, the contrary will also be true. A bigger restlessness is to be witnessed by man, and the man will suffer such hell as he had never suffered such hell. So this is the fate of man because of the denial. Conceive of a world, even a small country, which becomes an Ahmadi. For instance, Pakistan. A very small and insignificant country in the community of nations, I mean. Otherwise, it's a very good and very country full of potentials. But those potentials have not been tapped. The unfortunate people have been deprived of honest leadership, and they have been deprived of their fundamental rights, regime after regime. If they become Ahmadi today, I can promise that within 5 years they can rise to one of the greatest powers on earth. Because for Ahmadis to grow to 8 crores in a land where they could practice Islam as they would, without any shackles, without any restrictions, and where they could offer sacrifices as they pleased, and they could make a program of the world conquest for Islam. Such a country would be counted among the biggest powers on earth within a matter of years. If not 5, within 10 years. That is at the most. So this is the benefit of Ahmadiyya, but it will be drawn only by those who accept and submit, not by those who deny. After that side, please.
It would appear that the present crisis through which the Jamaat is passing is probably the final battle between the forces of Rahman and Shaitan. After that, we hope, inshallah, there will be a state of يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. I have also reasons to feel, I am using the word feel because this is my state of mind, that the present crisis may last from 2 to 2.5 years. Is there anything in the Holy Quran or Ahadith or the prophecies of Al-Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam about your present historical safari outside our headquarters?
Now it's too early to say anything about it, because I hope that the fear you are entertaining will not be real fears. That is what I hope. Yet I agree with you that the great victories which you hope would follow, that they will follow anyway. Because we can see already the signs of big change in Pakistan. There are two extremes developing. A polarization is setting, is in the process of setting. It has happened for the first time in the history of Pakistan, that the government was favoring mullah and the masses were favoring Ahmadis. It is a completely new historical phenomenon, a revolutionary phenomenon, which could never be conceived by the acutest pundit of political religious sphere. Nobody could prophesy that such a thing could happen. What happened was, previously, that there were mullahs riding the fury and storm of the masses and also leading them and egging them on, as against the government, which had a sense of justice and fair play. Even when they succumbed, they had that sense of justice and fair play and did not commit themselves to the wrongdoers, with the side of the wrongdoers. Now this time a completely new phenomenon occurred, which is that despite the best efforts of the government, and they are openly taking sides with the enemies of Ahmadiyya and supporting their stupid, absurd, inhuman demands and trying to stir up hatred against Ahmadis by publishing papers. So nakedly they have come forward that no sane man in the civilized world could ever conceive such a thing to happen. Only recently, a non-Ahmadi in Canada wrote a letter in the press denying everything that was happening. So one of the scholars from a university rebutted him, who is not an Ahmadi. He is a professor of something, and he rebutted him in a beautiful manner. He said, look here, you are denying the facts, yet your language tells me that you are a liar and not the Ahmadis. First of all, they talk of you with decency and with in normal language, and you are referring to them as if you are inside, you are burning in hell and agony. So that agony which you are nourishing within you, that tells me that if in outside free world you are behaving like this, how would you be behaving in Pakistan, where you have all the power to do whatever you please? And secondly, this question which you raised when I was discussing has been mentioned by him. He said, look here, you say no persecution in Pakistan? He said, no civilized man could ever conceive of a government taking sides in a religious issue and publishing papers against a sect, a citizen, a free citizen of that very country. Said this phenomena is inconceivable. Nobody can understand this to happen unless someone has lost total contact with common sense and justice. So, on one hand we observe this, which was never witnessed before. On the other polarization is becoming stronger and more evident, that the masses are turning to the sides of Ahmadiyya. They are openly protecting them. They refuse to be excited when they hear the mullahs speak violently against Ahmadiyya and preach murder and mass kill, arson and these things. They go to the Ahmadis' houses and say, look here, we are going to protect you. If anything happens, we will be the first, and don't bother. We don't care for the mullah. So much so that somebody wrote to me from Chinnor that I am surprised what will happen to this world now. the very people who burnt our house in 74 are coming to us and telling us that we extend our protection to you. Nobody can look to you with evil eyes. And we'll be your protector and your friends. And the same letter was received by me a few days ago from Faisalabad, the same subject. A girl had written that our house was burned by some neighbors, and we rebuilt it afterwards. And the same neighbors are now the staunchest supporters of Ahmadiyya. And we can't tell bad names call bad names to our enemies, but they are free to do that. So they are doing it for our sake. So that sort of thing could never be conceived. Even 2 years, even 1 year before. So that is the preparation for a big change. And the roots of this phenomena are in a revelation of Hazrat Masih Maud, which we find immediately after the revelation which pertained to the time of Bhutto and what happened afterwards. Immediately after, there is an Arabic revelation, Yawma Tubaddalu Samawatu wal Ardu Ghayra Yawma Tubaddalu Samawatu wal Ardu Ghayra al-Ard. हाँ? Ghayra से पहले Ghayra Samawat तो नहीं है ना? हाँ, Yawma Tubaddalu Samawatu wal Ardu Ghayra al-Ard. A time would come, but now I translate it in the words of Hazrat Masih Maud. This revelation speaks of a new heaven and a new earth. But the translation is also a sort of revelation in itself, because it has no direct bearing with the words of the revelation. What Masih Maud understood, and that was what was meant, of course, by this revelation, was this, in his own words, ख्यालात और रायें तब्दील किए जाएंगे. And previously people will think so badly of us, then Allah would see to it that people's views and their attitudes regarding Ahmadis will be changed from above, not automatically. तब्दील किए जाएंगे, तो बदलो. And from Earth and Samawat, he interpreted that in every direction the change will be witnessed. So that is exactly what is happening in Pakistan. So whether the things worsen still or begin to beat retreat, I don't know as yet. As far as the intentions are concerned, they are very evil. They are finding themselves in a helpless position. They are in fact making repeated appeals to the masses to cooperate with the government to destroy Ahmadis. And the masses are not responding. Raja Zafar had to issue an appeal, public appeal, that what has come of you? What has happened to you? We are ready to destroy and you are not cooperating. Come forward with your support and see what happens. And you don't know what event has taken place, what historic event has taken place. They didn't know, nor did he, because what historic event had taken place in the heavens. And the time had come when Masih Maud revelation about a change in the attitude and views of the people was to be effected by Allah. And this is the time. So how long this phenomenon is going to take and whether we shall suffer much greater and more heinous persecution at the hands of the government of Pakistan, we don't know as yet. If permitted, they will do it. They will not spare. If permitted, I mean if permitted by Allah. So that is something which neither you can know nor I can know unless Allah tells us. But Ahmadis are ready for every sacrifice. With smiling faces, they are not afraid. And this is a thread difference which is observed from the past anti-Ahmadi agitations. A very distinctive feature to be observed in fact. Previously, whenever the mullah went, started wide-scale campaign against Ahmadis and started preaching their murder and everything, Ahmadis were gradually cowed down. You could see worries on their faces. There were people who of course would never think of renouncing Ahmadiyya, but they walked with crestfallen heads and they were depressed very much, and many were afraid, and they would send people to Rabwa asking for permission to move from that particular place. There was danger and this and that. And sometimes hundreds of Ahmadi houses would request for permission to abandon that place of extreme danger. Now this time, not a single request has been made. Even those Ahmadis who were completely alone, surrounded entirely by the non-Ahmadis. If you read their letters, you will be surprised what a big change has happened. They say that we are here and we are very happy. We are in complete peace and we love these days. Such a days, such spiritual heights which we have gained could never be dreamt by us before earlier. Even the youngest children are enjoying this. And we are ready for offering anything. Let the enemy come and we are not going to be cowards. This is the spirit of the Ahmadis living in the length and breadth of Pakistan. Everywhere, every province. And it's so surprising. It is for you to go and observe the phenomena to believe how it is taking place and how immensely and deeply it has transformed the lives of Ahmadis. So this is the third phenomena which is different from the past behavior. So very big things are going to happen, I tell you. It is writ large on the horizon. Nobody can change this. Yet, I cannot positively claim when the final victory would come, when I shall be able to return, or whether we shall be murdered in large scale, or deprived our properties, or declared to be banned, or whatever they want to do with us. Anything can happen, if Allah permits them. Because as far as their intentions are concerned, that they are certain. But also one thing is certain, and it is written in the Holy Quran, that if they go forward another few steps, they will be so terribly punished by Allah that lessons would be drawn from them by the outside world. And Allah would repeat it. And I am referring to a surah of the Holy Quran, which is Surah Buruj, and at least once a week I recite it in the morning. In Surah Buruj, Allah Ta'ala tells us of a time, an age of the Ma'ud, the promised one, when things are going to happen. Now it's a long story. To cut it short, I refer you to the study of commentary on this surah by Hazrat Muslim Maud, which he made in 1945 and which was later on published, before partition of course, and it has been now published as Tafsir-e-Kabir in Surah Buruj. Whatever began to happen in 1974 has been related as if he is watching all these things to happen by the Muslim, drawing his inference from this surah. He tells us that this surah is applicable to Ahmadiyya, and it tells us of some future events. This and this is going to happen. to Ahmadis, and this time the trial would come to sit. And it will not be a transient trial like the 34-hour movement and this and that. And it will be a long trial spread over years. Then, if the enemies repeat what they had done earlier, then Allah will begin to punish them. This is exactly what has been mentioned in the surah. So that means that when the phenomena was to begin, that was in 74, they would be permitted by Allah, according to the prophecy of this surah, to continue in their persecution for a while. And a stalemate was to be brought about after some time. Then the Holy Quran tells us in this surah that if they repeat the same thing, then Allah will begin to punish them. In the meantime, they will be permitted to tarry for a while without punishment. And the words of Allah, to which I am referring, are these: إِنَّ الَّذِينَ فَتَنُوا الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَتُوبُوا فَلَهُمْ عَذَابُ جَهَنَّمَ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابُ الْحَرِيقِ إِنَّ بَطْشَ رَبِّكَ لَشَدِيدٌ إِنَّهُ هُوَ يُبْدِئُ وَيُعِيدُ وَهُوَ الْغَفُورُ الْوَدُودُ ذُو الْعَرْشِ الْمَجِيدُ فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. That if these people who have been torturing my people for no fault of theirs, if they repeat what they have done, now this repetition means a repetition of some great event, because every day, according to this surah, they are being persecuted. So that repetition is a constant phenomenon. It is not referring. It is that phenomenon is not referred to in this verse, where the Holy Quran says, if they repeat that, then we will begin to punish them, and we will repeat our punishment. They will not be just punished once, singly, but punishment after punishment will be their lot. Then Allah says, إِنَّهُ هُوَ يُبْدِئُ وَيُعِيدُ. And the same phenomena is described again so beautifully in answer to their behavior. That you began once by declaring somebody non-Muslim and started behaving in beastly manner to my people, and did not get satisfied at it. Then you repeated the same thing in a different way. He says, Innahu huwa yubdi'u wa yu'id. Allah also begins, and He also knows how to repeat things. So if He begins to punish you, He will repeat His punishment. So that is the fate of these people if they do not repent and mend their ways. So what I am afraid of is their lot. I assure you, I can see it written before me. There is no question of a prophecy about it. It is a decreed thing by Allah that if they are not permitted to reform and to mend their ways, they will be either washed out of the face of the earth in a most terrible manner, or some other punishment is going to overtake them. And they will be made a lesson for the rest of the world. So that is what you should be worried about. Because, but again I hope this will not happen to Pakistan, inshallah. Why? Because the people have changed. And this is also the mercy of Allah, that for the sake of the falling out of you, He does not punish a larger number of innocent people. Although they are not entirely innocent, they are also indulging in every type of crime and defiance of Islam in practical life. Yet, in this regard, they have behaved beautifully. So, because they are mending their ways, therein lies the hope of the future of Pakistan. if Allah permits them to continue, move in the same direction, then Allah would know how to punish the regime, not the people of Pakistan. And He knows how to go about these things. So we only hope and pray to Allah that our brothers in Pakistan who are behaving so nobly, majority among them, to their enemy brothers, and they're showing the human values in a beautiful manner. They should be saved the punishment, and only the culprits and the very top among them should be punished. Now, Azan and then prayer, please.